on Sky News Australia. This is the Rita Panahi Show.
Good evening and welcome to the Rita Panahi Show. Coming up tonight, lies, damn lies and fake news. We'll look at how large segments of the media are deliberately pushing outrageous lies about Donald Trump supposedly threatening a bloodbath and calling migrants not human. That's coming up later in the hour. Also tonight, we'll look at the state-based Indigenous voice in South Australia and Victoria, despite both states voting no in the referendum. One Nation MP Sarah Game joins me shortly. Also tonight, we've got Nick Cater, Alex Stein and Kinsey Schofield will have the latest on Princess Kate, and the theories are getting wilder by the hour. And as always, plenty of lefties losing it. And we saw just that, lefties losing it on the weekend when lawless climate change cultists decided to cause mass disruption in Melbourne. More than 30 of these reckless global warming activists were led away in handcuffs. An enormous amount of police resources was spent trying to restore order and allow ordinary Victorians to go about their business. It is shameful that a tiny number of fringe-dwelling protesters are allowed to cause such havoc in Melbourne CBD. We're talking here about 300 people in total. By all means, protest peacefully. That's a right we all have. Well, unless you're protesting against lockdowns, that was another story. But these climate cultists are deliberately breaking the law by taking over busy intersections, supergluing themselves to roads and buildings and all the other idiotic shenanigans we have seen from Extinction Rebellion in recent years. And yet the media coverage they receive is almost fawning. Check out this report on the weekend's protests on the ABC.
Activist Violet Coco, who was recently released from prison on bail over this stunt on the Westgate Bridge, led hundreds, cutting a slow path through the city. Some clad in blood red, chanting their movement's name. Public transport was paused, major streets congested.
Compared to climate collapse, it's a very minor disruption.
As the environmentalists issued an urgent call to arms.
We're asking the government to declare a climate emergency. We think it is time that we really start to act on this issue because we are running out of time and something needs to change.
I'm a public health doctor and I realise that the world doesn't understand the concept of risk.
The sit-in was a climax to days of smaller protests about inaction on climate change.
I'm sorry, is Extinction Rebellion writing the scripts of the ABC nowadays? Are they producing the news reports? I can't imagine how the coverage would be any different if they were. Let's see how that report ends.
The police have decided to be much tougher this year than they were last year. This time they're going to charge us with summary offences or indictable offences, which means we'll all have to go to court.
This is an action designed to maximise disruption, but the activists say, faced with multiple warnings from scientists that the world is on track to miss critical targets that will limit global temperature rises, there's few other ways to get the urgency of their message through.
Stop all new oil and gas and coal.
It's the only way we can get attention now.
Absolutely pathetic. Not a single CBD business or motorist or resident whose day or livelihood was disrupted featured in that report. And to claim these protesters are behaving like this because of multiple warnings from scientists and climate inaction in Australia is utter dross. All of it funded by your tax dollars. Joining me now to go over the day's top stories is Nick Cater of the Menzies Research Centre, also senior columnist with The Australian. Nick, let's start with those climate change radicals. One of them told the Herald Sun their outrage at being moved along by police. They said it's devastating that the police chose to prioritise the traffic flow over our democratic right to protest and our children's futures. I mean, how much more traffic mayhem are we supposed to tolerate so these cosplaying catastrophists can feel good about themselves?
Yeah, I see that one of their spokespersons, apologised to the Palestinians and Papuans I would have thought you'd be better off apologising for the poor creatures who were just trying to get to Myers on a Saturday afternoon and just were blocked by them. And it was nice to see the Victorian police behaving nicely for once, I must say, but you do wish that they perhaps bring a bit of that force to bear that they managed to bring against the COVID protesters and maybe get out, maybe not the full plastic bullets, but, you know, a little bit more force to get these idiots out of the way. But Rita, perhaps you can understand this because you're a Victorian, but what I don't understand about them is why they're doing this Extinction Rebellion thing in Victoria. Don't they know they've already won? The Victorian government is going for a 95% reduction target by 2035. That'll certainly lead to the extinction of the Victorian economy, no worries whatsoever. So maybe they should take their protest to China, perhaps, and, you know, maybe it'll go down well in the streets of Beijing or Shanghai.
Well, China's opening up a couple of coal power plants every week. So China's doing its own thing while we destroy our industries and economy. And good news, Nick, the Vic Libs are on board with those insane emission targets. So, yeah, I don't know what this climate in action they are speaking about because we are destroying our economy. Household bills are through the roof because of climate action that these people are advocating for. Now, let's get to the front page of today's Herald Sun. Tells of how half of crime victims in Victoria are so traumatised by what they describe as the injustice system that they doubt they will ever report another crime. The silenced and sidelined report from the Victims of Crime Commissioner reveals even some police have cautioned victims to avoid court trauma. As confronting as this report is, Nick, it is something we've been talking about on this program almost every night. It seems for the Victorian justice system, and I'm sure it's not just Victoria, the priority seems to be the interests of the offender rather than the victim and the wider society.
Well, yeah, look, I've got a lot of sympathy for some of those cases that were mentioned in that report. It's harrowing, I think, what some people have to go through in court when they are the ones that have had a crime committed against them. But I do think, Rita, we've got to be very, very cautious before we leap in and take shortcuts in the court process in order to avoid this kind of thing, because we've seen already that the presumption of innocence can very quickly disappear. And there are two kinds of miscarriages of justice. One is the victim whose offender is not prosecuted for some reason or another. The other, of course, is people who are prosecuted despite the fact that they're innocent and there's no evidence, and there's plenty of that going on. So, yes, the courts need to be much, much more careful in administering justice, but I think the brutal fact is that they've always got to balance the interests of, we talk about the offender, but in that case they're actually the accused. The accused has a right to a fair trial just as the victim has has the right to see the person who committed the wrongs against them brought to justice.
I'm not sure if it's the right to a fair trial, the presumption of innocence. It is all the other ideology that has crept into the system, from the judges when it comes to sentencing, down to the police force, who again have become politicised in a really unhealthy fashion. And we saw that with the George Pell case. That's probably the most prominent case where we see the police having this two-tier policing, having a different set of standards for some compared to others. Now, the Queensland Premier, Stephen Giggles Miles, is conceding his party has a real risk of being trounced at the state election later this year if the results of this weekend's by-elections are any guide. The swings were big there, Nick. The Liberal Nationals have picked up a 17% swing in Ipswich West. They picked up that seat. They did hold on, Labor, to Anastasia Palaszczuk's old seat, but there was still a 20% swing there. This tells me that the Queenslanders are finally fed up with state Labor.
Yeah, the Labor brand is toxic, isn't it? You can see that too in the city council elections there in Brisbane, that Labor took a big hit there as well. But look, I'm not going to, let's not get ahead of ourselves. It was a by-election. There are often bigger swings in by-elections, and let's never forget the ability of the Liberal National parties on occasions to grab defeat from the jaws of victory. So I think they've got to fight very hard. I think every seat will be going one seat at a time. But what it does show, particularly that result in Ipswich, Rita, is that once you get out of the inner city bubble in Brisbane, away from that sort of green, woke, left bubble, people think about things very different and they're feeling the effects of the Labor policies very differently.
Now let's go to the US, Nick. More than 7.2 million illegal immigrants, some estimate it could actually be closer to 10 million illegal immigrants, have surged into the US since Joe Biden became president. And the New York Post has uncovered who some of these people are. They're coming from all sorts of places, not just Mexico or Central America. There are South Americans, Chinese, Middle East illegal immigrants, including a member of a terror group, Hezbollah, trained under them for 7 years in the art of jihad, and he was hoping to make a bomb and head to New York. Border agents have recorded 329 encounters with terror watch-listed individuals at the border since 2022. And Nick, these are just the ones they find. How many more have come into the US undetected?
Those numbers, Rita, you talk about 7, perhaps 10 million people. I mean, that's twice the population of Finland. You know, it's just incredible. And what we're seeing, you're right, I'm sure this is just the tip of an iceberg, that what we're seeing, these people coming over from Palestine. But this is bound to happen, isn't it? We know here how organised the international people smuggler trade is. All they need is one little opening, one thing that they can go out and advertise to wherever their, captive market is, whether it's Palestine or whether it's Afghanistan or wherever, and they say, look, here's the way, boys, just pay us $5 million or whatever it'll take you to fly you to Mexico City and you can have a holiday and then across the border. That's bound to happen. And, what's happening in America is you've just got the government that is no longer, that has given up on defending its borders. It's given itself over to some woke cult that really thinks that borders are illegal and they shouldn't exist anywhere in the world. And we're seeing the result. America is going to feel the pain of this for many years, I think.
Now, I want your expert opinion here on this next story. Boxing great Mike Tyson is returning to the ring to fight YouTube personality Jake Paul, who's also a fighter. He's not just a YouTuber. Everyone initially expected Jake Paul to win. He's 27, he's fighting fit, but then 57-year-old Mike Tyson started releasing his training videos. Have a look.
Day 4, it was okay, but you don't know what you got in store, baby. You got to face the God of War.
Nick, this fight is reportedly going to earn Tyson at least $20 million. Judging by his form, the fight may not last long. How much would you need to be paid to get in the ring with 57-year-old Mike Tyson?
Well, I was interested to see the doctors are warning him at the age of, 58, that it's quite dangerous for him to be in the boxing ring and it's a high likelihood that he could suffer, things happening in his brain and in his heart. Guess what? Boxing is dangerous, particularly against Mike Tyson. There's also the stories around, you've no doubt seen them, that those are actually faked, those videos. I can only think they can only fake them up to a point. The way he pummels that other guy's, I know the other guy's just there to be punched. He's not there to fight back. But seriously, I mean, that's serious fitness, isn't it? So this is going to be quite some bout, I think. And taking on a YouTube personality sounds fairly easy, but as you say, I guess he's more than that. He must also be a boxer. Good luck to him.
Yes, good luck to him indeed. I'm not a religious person, but I might just say a little prayer for him because that footage of Tyson is scary. Nick Cater, thank you for your time this evening.
Thanks, Rita.
Around 30,000 Indigenous South Australians were eligible to vote in last weekend's South Australian Voice to Parliament elections. Because despite every single South Australian electorate voting no in the Voice referendum last year, delivering the second highest no vote of any state or territory, with 64% of South Australians voting no, the Labor state government there has pushed ahead with its own Voice to Parliament. And we're learning now Not only is this new chamber divisive and race-based, but it also has the potential to frustrate the state's nuclear industry before it even begins. Resisting that push is One Nation MP Sarah Game, who joins me now. Sarah, tell me about your petition to get the voice out of South Australia.
Thanks so much, Rita. Look, as far as I can see, disappointingly, One Nation is the only party in South Australia actually committed to repealing the state voice. And on that basis, I've got a petition to support the bill that I've put forward to Parliament to repeal the state voice. I'd really like to see from the Liberal Party a clear position and, in fact, more collaboration. When we look at the debates that we've had in Parliament, it seems that the Liberal Party have gone from debating the detail to settling on a no for now vote. And I think that's not good enough for our voting public.
Well, there seems to be a bit of confusion about who's holding up the opposition to the voice. The Liberals say it's One Nation, it's yourself. You're saying they're not clear on this. How do we actually have the interests of at least 64% of South Australians represented? Because it's very clear that the South Australian people do not want this divisive voice on any level. We've had a vote nationally, but if you don't support this nationally, I'd suggest there's very little chance you support it at state level.
That's right. I mean, we're hearing from the Labor government, the state voice is different to the federal voice. But really, when we're looking at the reasons about why the federal voice was rejected in the first place, I would say from the community feedback I've had that it's for the same reason that we don't want the state voice, and that's division, and that's wastage of money and a cost of living crisis. And that is opposition to a growing bureaucracy. I mean, once I saw that the voice legislation here was going to pass, I tried putting up an amendment to limit the number of committees that could be formed, because although there will be 46 members in the local First Nations and state First Nations voice, the entire voice will actually consist of over 100 people. And that's because of the additional people required for these committees. And unfortunately, my amendment to limit the number of committees that could be formed actually received no support within the Parliament, which was very disappointing. So in response to your question, Rita, I think really we need to listen to the voice of the South Australian people, and we need to repeal this state voice. Every dollar that we have should be going on cost of living crisis and early interventions to keep families together.
Now, how's this voice going to impact policies, how policies are formulated, how they're implemented in South Australia, including really the impact on major projects and developments?
Well, I think this is an unknown. Look, whenever we hear the Labor government being criticised about the voice delaying decision-making and delaying necessary legislation, it seems strange to me that their answer quite openly is, look, we don't need to listen to this voice. It has no power at all. And that, for me, begs the question why we're actually spending over $10 million of taxpayer money funding this voice. I think it's going to be an unknown about how this voice is going to work. I mean, ultimately, these 100 people will be represented by one individual in Parliament. My understanding from the Aboriginal communities that have contacted me is that that is completely against their cultural beliefs and very deeply offensive to have others speaking on behalf of their communities. And so how that will actually play out in a timely manner, I think remains to be seen.
Sarah, I also want to ask you about the South Australian Labor government rejecting a review of what's happening in that state as far as trans care for young children. We're talking about under 18, minors. There was going to be a review to see how the gender affirming model was working, but that was rejected?
That's correct. So it actually ultimately didn't get put before the Parliament because the Labor government came out and declared that they would oppose it. And so there wouldn't have been the numbers to get it through. I certainly would have supported the establishment of that committee and I believe would have been on that committee. I think the Labor government has again misread the public feelings on this issue because it's loud and clear to me from all sides of politics that the public have absolutely had it with gender fluidity being taught in schools and promoted within our society. And ultimately, this committee was about looking into the best care of our children.
Well, absolutely. It wasn't even suggesting banning any treatments or having any dramatic changes. It was going to be an initial review to see how these programs are working. And we've already seen in the UK just last week, the NHS has stopped under 18s receiving puberty blockers. We've seen all sorts of changes in policy in states across America and Scandinavia. What's happening in Australia and South Australia where the politicians are running scared of just a review?
It doesn't make any sense, Rita. Look, when I got to Parliament, one of the first things I did was speak to some leading psychiatrists here in this state, and I asked them this question: are you confident that we've got it right on this issue and how we're treating these children? And they've told me, look, no, they don't know, and it's something that they're still looking into. And I really think it was a very, very dismal response from the Labor government to not support the establishment of that committee. It's what the public want and it's what our children deserve.
Sarah Game, thank you so much for your time this evening. Still to come, why Princess Kate's disappearance from public life might be about Prince William's behaviour, not her health. Royal expert Kinsey Schofield gives us the inside scoop next, and plenty of lefties losing it coming up. Welcome back. Now it's time for Lefties Losing It. Let's start with North Face. You know, the makers of those overpriced, low-quality garments favoured by Dan Andrews and other fashion backward souls. Well, in the US and elsewhere, North Face are offering 20% off if you complete their digital course in racial inclusion. Customers are taught how white privilege grants access to the outdoors and why the outdoors can be racist.
Systemic action is around long-term vision of making the outdoors more accessible for everyone, including people of colour.
It's so beautiful because it's just breaking all the norms and barriers and everything, and it's showing you can do anything with hijab, without hijab.
Going outdoors and being black outdoors and being visibly black and being like, this is stuff that we do, like almost changing the perception or makeup of what a climber looks like.
Now, let's hear from a man who took one for the team and sat through that racial equity class. Let's see what he learned.
Honestly, I would have enjoyed sitting at the DMV for an hour more than taking that course. The course is really just insulting to my intelligence. They really want to convince you that white people are getting a Caucasian discount every time they go to Bass Pro Shops. And what makes it even more insulting is that it says that when a white person, let's say, can't afford to go jet skiing or hiking or any of these other outdoor activities, they say it's not racially based when it's a white person, but for some reason it is when it's a person of color.
And it's not just North Face. Advil is claiming that there is systematic racism in healthcare and black and brown folk are experiencing what they call pain bias.
I should not have to beg my doctor to run tests or ask them to take another look.
Welcome to Believe My Pain, a discussion about systemic pain bias in healthcare. I want to thank all of you for joining me today as we talk about this very important issue. I also want to thank the Pain Equity Project developed by Advil in partnership with the Morehouse School of Medicine and Black Health for inviting us to be a part of their commitment to addressing pain bias in Black communities.
Yes, everything is racist, including aspirin. Let's look at how Advil hopes to increase sales.
Believe me when I say
I'm in pain. Believe me when I say.
And believe me when I say.
My pain is real.
Now to a woman who has been failed by the education system, her parents, society. We keep hearing about how smart and savvy Gen Z and millennials are. Sure, they can name 40 pronouns, but how is their financial literacy? How are they with the simplest tasks? Watch this and try to work out whether she's for real or trolling us.
With my credit card, I max that out to $4,000.
What do you mean you max it out? Max it out or maxed it out?
So my max, I got confused with the credit debt and the credit limit. So my parents got me a credit card, and I ended up getting a max credit limit of $8,000. So I could spend up to $8,000. That's what that means, right? So I would use it, and I would take my boyfriend. We would just started dating. We would go out.
It's 12,500
on it now.
Yeah.
Well, when I looked at it last, yeah.
Continue.
Me and my boyfriend, me and my friends, we would go out, and I'm like, oh, I'll pay for everybody. I got it. I'll spend the money. Don't worry about it. It's just a credit card. So I would pay and pay and pay and pay, and then I called my mom one day, and I wanted her to be proud of me. So it's just like, hey, I've got $4,000 credit on my credit card, and she's like, credit limit or credit debt? I was like, what's debt? And she's like, oh, that's bad. I'm like, oh, really? Okay. So it's $4,000 debt then? She's like, that's bad. Why did you do that? I'm like, I thought that was good. And she's like, no, your credit limit at the time, it was $8,000. So I was like, okay, well, the credit limit's $8,000. That's good, right? And she's like, yes, but you were $4,000 in debt.
I don't know what to say, really. What is debt? Okay, now COVID broke many brains. You see these folks even now wearing masks outdoors, wearing masks in cars by themselves in their own car. They smell of hand sanitizer. You can smell them coming. And they like to scold their friends and family. Check out this woman.
A few weeks ago, I found out that the person that I love most in this world is no longer masking. Their entire family, including 4 small children, have stopped masking. And yesterday I texted her and I said, hey, I can't get past the fact that you all are no longer masking. Like, with everything that's happening in the world right now, with COVID, with RSV, with measles, with everything that's coming back, not masking is wild behavior to me. Like, community care is important to me. I need to know that the people in my life care about their health and the health of the people around them. To which I received a 3.5-page dissertation justifying their behavior.
I wouldn't need 3 pages. I'd limit it to 3 words. Get stuffed, loser. But let's hear more from this woman who responds to her friends who have told her it's not logical to keep little kids masked forever.
My personal favorite was paraphrased, you couldn't possibly understand because you don't have kids. It's illogical to expect children to continue masking and stay in lockdown. So I responded and I said, as I already stated, it's your choice to make. I'm sure you will do everything you can to keep your family safe. The best thing for me right now is to take a step away from this relationship. I love you all, but I have to take care of myself first and foremost. I hope you understand. And she said, sure, I can't force you to stay. And I'm telling you this because I know I'm not the only one out here who is dealing with, struggling with people in their lives that they care about very much that are no longer taking mitigation efforts. I can't have people in my life that make me feel unsafe, and they live on the other coast, but that's not the point. The point is, if I had the option to be around them right now, I couldn't because I wouldn't feel safe. And that means something to me.
It's becoming impossible to figure out what is real and what is satire. Remember, she started that rant by saying that this person is the person she cares about most in the world, and she's choosing to cut her out of her life because she's not masking her little kids on the other side of the country. My God. Now to California, where it is a free-for-all when it comes to thievery. Watch this and you soon realise why an increasing number of retailers are closing up or putting everything, including toothpaste, under lock and key.
Y'all just get bored, huh? This broke activities right here. I don't understand why did you come with a bag? Hey, you might as well jump on that front area so I can go.
Talking about entitled thieves, check out this dude and how indignant he is about being confronted about his thievery. How dare a car owner object to him trying to steal his tyres? He was only going to borrow them.
How's it going, sir?
What are you doing?
Taking a tire.
You're taking my tire?
Yes, sir.
Is that what you're doing?
Yes, sir.
Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And why is that?
My tire's gone.
Your tire's gone, so you're going to just take other people's tire?
Something like that.
I don't think you're going to take it. I'll tell you that right now.
Why is that?
I'll tell you you're not going to take it.
Why is that? So you're picking it up and you're going to hold it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, that's no problem.
You don't do that to people's car. Okay? You don't do that to people's cars. So I just want to let you know. I just want to let you know that I have police coming on the way.
All right, cool.
People don't do that. Go into other people's car and just take it.
You're trying to distract me from getting away, sir.
You know, I'm just telling you.
People don't step people up like that.
I'm just telling you that right now. You see this? Yeah. I got cops coming right now. I don't think you get far, but go ahead.
Well, yeah, dude. That's why I brought my truck here. Okay?
Yeah.
If I wanted to just steal your tire,
yeah.
I would put it in the shopping cart.
Yeah, I think you just tried that, though, right?
I'm not trying to steal your tire.
You're not trying to steal my tire?
No.
Okay.
I was going to take my rim off my truck and then put it on your truck.
Sure, buddy.
Borrow it and then bring it back.
Oh, okay. That's what it is, huh?
Yeah, that's
what it is. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, the Prince and Princess of Wales are expected to release another photo soon to mark their youngest child's birthday in April. But will it be edited as their now infamous Mother's Day picture? Kate has taken the blame for the many mistakes in that pic, but I don't buy it for a second. I don't think she had anything to do with those photo edits. It would take just 10 seconds to silence all these crazy rumours around her disappearance. She could do a short Zoom video saying she's fine and just needs a little longer to recover. It would take 10 seconds to correct the mistakes of that Photoshop by just releasing the original image. The palace isn't stupid. They're media savvy and have a massive PR machine, but none of these easy solutions are being pursued. They're allowing even more wild theories and conspiracy theories to take hold. Why? Is it because Kate is genuinely facing a serious health battle? Or does she no longer want to play ball, as some are suggesting, including Russell Brand?
If it were a hysterectomy, they'd just go, it was a hysterectomy, give her a break. Or she's got to have a colostomy bag, give her a break. Wouldn't they say something like that? And wouldn't she be being sort of used as a sort of a poster person for, look, you know, for those of you that go for a hysterectomy and you know, there's countless women and it'll become a charity and there'll be a ribbon and all that stuff. That's what would happen, isn't it? So that's, I suppose, why we're curious. And what you wouldn't do is put out a photograph that's manipulated. What seems likely, possible, feasible is the compliance of Kate can no longer be relied upon.
Well, maybe a royal reporter Kinsey Schofield can make sense of what's happening. She joins me now. What do you make of the non-reaction to the hysteria around Kate's disappearance? The palace just seems to be playing dead on this issue when they know how damaging it is. She's not some minor royal. She is the most popular royal right now.
Well, we are getting some chess moves. So we did see a story pop up in the Times in the UK over the weekend where there is clearly permission given to close friends of the Prince and Princess of Wales to speak on their behalf. Although they don't say that, the details are just too intimate for, you're no longer a close friend of William and Catherine if you're talking to the Times with some of these details. Those friends saying that Kate was absolutely left devastated by the backlash after the photo, that the couple trusted people would give them space and allow the Princess of Wales to heal. They told us that she was going to be returning sometime after April 17th, although we're also hearing that perhaps she could walk with the family at Easter, and that Prince William's going to take some time off Easter break to spend with the family as well. You know, they talk about both the Princess of Wales being seen at the school, as well as the Prince of Wales being seen at some sporting events with the kids. And, you know, talking about how between both of these health scares, Catherine and the King, and all of the chaos on social media, how this is the hardest time that the Wales family has had to go through as a family, and that they're trying to keep things as normal as possible for the children, but it's not easy. Also, Catherine was seen on Saturday out shopping with Prince William close to home. So we're seeing like teeny tiny nudges where they're trying to silence some of the, you know, the kind of the media meltdown over Catherine's absence.
But what was the picture? Where was this picture if she was spotted? Was she actually photographed out? Because people are doubting these spots. She's been spotted here. She was in the car going to a funeral, but until there's actually a picture of her or some sort of a statement, I don't think these doubts are going to continue, Kinsey.
I know that the doubts are going to continue. I reported via Fox News last week that I know somebody that goes to school with her children, and I also have another contact in the area, and they have both said that they've seen her and that the neighborhood is fiercely protective of her, and that they think that all of the speculation is ridiculous and unfair based on the information that they have. And they've also told me that once we all have the same information, we're going to feel incredibly, you know, the Kim Kardashians making fun of the Princess of Wales, the Blake Lively's making light of this subject. Everybody is going to feel horrifically ashamed, and they're going to feel real guilt about the way we've behaved throughout this process.
But I think so many of the rumours are generated by just genuine interest in her welfare. I mean, she has been the most visible royal, one of the hardest working royals, and then to disappear from sight, no explanation other than she had abdominal surgery, no explanation about what that was, what the recovery time's going to be. You can understand the royal family know that they are going to cop this sort of conjecture. So I don't know, they're not naive. So the way they're handling it is giving rise to even more rumours. If she is fine and can be seen around the village, then why can't she do a 5-10 second Zoom video and say, I understand people are curious, I understand people are concerned, but I am fine. I'll be back full-time duties as soon as I can. And that would silence all these craziness and all these rumours.
I think that they are trying to stay in line with what Queen Elizabeth would have done, which is keep calm, carry on, and not listen to the noise. You know, also
Queen Elizabeth was working while she was ill. Queen Elizabeth was very elderly, and she was still working despite being rather ill right up until the end there almost. So this isn't to me how Queen Elizabeth, and Queen Elizabeth, sure, she had some missteps after the tragic death of Diana in misjudging the public mood, but she understood the media. She knew how to treat the media, and this is ham-fisted in the extreme, and it's also given rise to all these rumours about Prince William's alleged affair. It's a topic we have not touched on this program, but now every mainstream outlet is writing about this, saying that he cheated on Kate and that this is part of her reaction, that perhaps that affair never ended. Can you tell us about this? Is there any credence to these rumours? And there's a lot also being reported about the other woman.
Yeah, I mean, what I can tell you is that literally no one has been able to prove these rumors. They started around 2018, 2019. And this woman, Lady Rose, is factually a friend of the Princess of Wales. Oliver, her son, was a page boy at King Charles's coronation last year. In August of 2023, the Princess of Wales stayed overnight with Rose and her family because she had an all-night festival on her estate. You know, Pippa's daughter, who was recently born, was named Rose. I'm not naming my child after my brother-in-law's mistress, So there's literally, Tom Bauer has said that this is not true. Robert Lacey, a well-respected royal reporter, this is not true. Tina Brown, even Omid Scobie says it's not true. This is a rumor that started in the United States in In Touch magazine, and as Tom Bauer very astutely pointed out, that is one of Meghan Markle's. That was one of her favorite magazines to appear in prior to meeting Prince Harry, and he alludes to the fact that Meghan Markle is the one that initially leaked this to prove that the palace protects Kate and not Meghan. And so several people have pointed to Meghan Markle being the person that started this rumor to prove a point.
Wow, Kinsey Schofield, you always have the inside story for us. Thank you so much for your time this evening. And don't go anywhere. Alex Stein on the left's latest episode of mass hysteria over Donald Trump. We will fact check all their lies after this. Welcome back. Trust in the US media is at historic lows, and it's because of hysteria like this. Here are just some of the headlines spruiking the lie that Donald Trump has declared there will be a bloodbath if he loses the next election. The New York Times even suggested this signals a doomsday vision of the United States. But listen to what he actually said and what he was referring to. He's being very specific.
Mexico has taken, over a period of 30 years, 34% of the automobile manufacturing business in our country. Think of it, went to Mexico. China now is building a couple of massive plants where they're going to build the cars in Mexico and they think that they're going to sell those cars into the United States with no tax at the border. Let me tell you something to China. If you're listening, President Xi, and you and I are friends, but he understands the way I deal, those big monster car manufacturing plants that you're building in Mexico right now, and you think you're going to get that, you're going to not hire Americans, and you're going to sell the cars to us. Now, we're going to put a 100% tariff on every single car that comes across the line, and you're not going to be able to sell those cars. If I get elected, now, if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole, that's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country. That'll be the least of it. But they're not going to sell those cars. They're building massive factories.
He was talking about cars, the car industry, a bloodbath in the car industry, not a bloodbath in the streets if he's not elected. Joining me now is the host of Prime Time with Alex Stein, the man himself, Alex Stein. Alex, I remember the riots and destruction when Trump was elected in 2016. His inauguration in 2017 saw massive violent protests, but we're supposed to pretend January 6th was the worst violence that DC has seen and that he's threatening literal bloodshed.
Well, Rita, obviously they want to try to spin this and make Donald Trump seem like a villain, which is, all the media ever does. But on a serious note, you look at Detroit, Michigan was an iconic city, and when it lost its automotive manufacturing, it totally failed. And Donald Trump is being very honest when he says that if we lose our automotive manufacturing in America, we're going to crumble just like Detroit. So he was just using the dictionary definition, talking about a financial issue and using it in a financial way, not a physical, blood, violent way like the media wants to spin it.
And the media, Alex, were also spreading more disinformation, claiming that Trump called migrants not human, not people. You can see the headlines again, everyone from Daily Mail to the New York Times. But again, let's listen to what he actually said.
If I had prisons that were teeming with MS-13 and all sorts of people that they've got to take care of for the next 50 years, right? Young people, they're in jail for years, and if you call them people, I don't know if you call them people. In some cases, they're not people, in my opinion, but I'm not allowed to say that because the radical left says that's a terrible thing to say. They say you have to vote against him because did you hear what he said about humanity? I've seen the humanity, and these are bad, these are animals, okay? And we have to stop it. We can't have another Lakin.
Alex, he's talking about MS-13 gangbangers who are in prison, and yet the media claims in just about every headline we're looking at that Trump said migrants are not people. Clearly, they are terrified of the recent polls showing Trump is winning huge numbers of migrants, including the majority of Hispanics, according to a recent New York Times poll.
Well, Rita, the reason why this immigration issue is such a big deal is because the cartel is sending criminals up here. I mean, some people are sure they're probably coming here for a better life, but the majority of people are paid by coyotes to be smuggled across, sex traffickers and drug traffickers. And when they get caught, Rita, they don't have to face the same judicial system that I would as an American citizen. They get to go to ICE, Immigration, Customs, and Enforcement, and go right back to Mexico. So we have a two-tier justice system that doesn't prosecute illegal immigrants the same as they do as American citizens. So everything Donald Trump is saying is just based in fact, but the media wants to cover that up and not live in reality and wants to live in some world where American can just solve all the crises in South America, which is not the truth. And then if you just saw, we just had a Hezbollah terrorist just come up through the border saying that he wants to go to New York and make bombs. So this isn't just Venezuelans or South Americans coming to America for a better life. This is a controlled demolition of American greatness, and it starts really at the border.
Now, we played a little bit of this next clip last week, but we're going to play a bit more of it here. I'm going to play it first and ask you about it. It's you in New York with your wife's boyfriend, Don Terrius, causing havoc.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're here in New York City at the Roosevelt Hotel with my wife's boyfriend. We're going to try to get him a free hotel room for the night because the migrants should not get priority over my wife's boyfriend. Let's see what they say. Oh, we're here trying to get him a room.
No, he cannot. Yo,
we're trying to get him a room.
Don't let him in the building, bro. Hey, don't let him in the building.
Hey, we're trying to get a room. We need a free room for him. No, wait. We need a room for him. Yeah, no, I know he. Wait, why not? No, we got to get a room. Hey, dude, he's not going to cook any rats. He's not going to cook any rats like these Venezuelans.
Alice, let's start with the rats. Are they really roasting rats in New York? And did Don Terrius in the end get some accommodation, some food, get any sort of freebies that are reserved for the illegal immigrants?
No, and Rita, you know, I'm just a goofball comedian, but the whole reason that we did that is to show the hypocrisy that you can say that you're a Venezuelan immigrant and you get a $500 hotel room in the most expensive city in America, New York City. But if you're a homeless person and struggling, you get absolutely no care whatsoever. So really, if we're going to talk about the rats, that's a real thing. That's not the only video. There's multiple videos all through the Bronx, all throughout New York City, where they're literally cooking rats on the street. And that is unsanitary. Somebody's going to get sick. So I just try to do these stunts as a way to just try to expose the hypocrisy that there's a lot of struggling Americans, and a lot of them are vets. Our military vets are treated so poorly. And if we treated our military vets like we treated the illegal immigrants that came across our country would be a much better place. But instead, they know, the people that are in power, the Biden administration knows, that they can supplant conservative voters with liberal illegal immigrants to vote on their side. So this is a controlled demolition. Like I said earlier, this isn't just some accidental plan. This is 100% trying to subvert America and controlling America and letting it go into the hands of illegal immigrants.
Alex Stein, your stunts always have a deeper message, but they're just hilarious as stunts as well. We always love speaking with you. Thank you so much for your time this evening. And that's it from me tonight. Don't go anywhere. Newsnight is up next. Good night.